Hello, my name is Steve Higgins, and my favorite thing is Nightmare Before Christmas.
Welcome to the Finding Favorites podcast, where we explore your favorite things without using an algorithm. Here's your host, Leah Jones.
Hello and welcome back to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones, and it is Sunday, March 13th. Thank you for staying with me when I went missing last weekend. I am now 2 weeks into my 3 weeks of radiation for breast cancer, and a friend described it as every radiation treatment is kind of the equivalent as at the day at the beach when it comes to how dehydrated you get and the naps you take. And boy, have I been napping. And also, we returned to office at work, and I really miss seeing people, so I've been going back to the office, trying to binge some in-person experiences in case the next variant comes through. And so I have been super tired from all the extra walking. I've been using a cane because I got really weak after chemotherapy. I'm on some steroid inhalers, which are helping my lungs. My lungs took a big hit from chemotherapy, my strength. And while I was never vomiting, chemo did me in. And then radiation has made me a sleepy Leah. So when it came to trying to edit last weekend, on top of some technical issues with the service I used to record interviews didn't sync properly, so you might hear some goofs during this episode because I switched to a new format and it just didn't download correctly. But I got most of what we needed. So I've just been doing a lot of napping. Also have been paying close attention to the war in Ukraine and efforts to get refugees moved out of Ukraine into border countries and from border countries into Western Europe or to North America or to Israel. Two places that are getting my money. My donations are JDC, which is known as the Joint. They're doing a lot of great on the ground work. There's a lot of mutual aid groups that different friends of mine have been working in. So sometimes I'm just like Venmoing someone, but also Highest does a lot of good work in this area as well. So if you're looking, I'll put some links in the show notes if you're looking to make donations to support refugees that they're trying to get out of Ukraine. This interview is with Steve Higgins. You met Steve in season 1 of Finding Favorites. He came to talk about Doctor Who. This week we are talking about The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is coming up on its 30th anniversary. And so Disney, when you're looking for someone to bring to your 30th anniversary stuff, or Steve Higgins is your guy. So with all that said, it has been the time change, and while I slept a lot today and yesterday, I think I need to go back to bed. So wear your mask, wash your hands, get your booster, and keep enjoying your favorite things. Welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones, and this is the podcast where we learn about people's favorite things and get recommendations without using an algorithm. This week, I am joined by Steve Higgins. Steve, as you should remember from our Doctor Who episode, is a professor at Lewis and Clark University in the St. Louis area, and he's also does comic books and is part of the comic book drinking and drawing community down there as well. And over the pandemic, started doing these like very cool TikTok introduction to poetry, 1 minute poetry, 3 minute poetry. And you had a couple go viral. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it was very strange. I did one on Dust of Snow by Robert Frost, and it really did kind of explode, and it got me a few thousand more followers than I had before. Not that I'm a huge, TikToker influencer or anything. I'm almost at 4,000 followers, so it's not like I have millions or anything. But hey, I got a fan base.
That's great.
I'll count it.
And I feel like you also had some like celebrity comment, like not just TikTok celebrities, but like real celebrities were commenting and reposting.
That's correct. Yeah, I had Alyssa Milano was someone who started following me, also like reached out to me to be part of an initiative that she was doing to support the ERA a while back as well. So yeah, it was very strange.
That's neat.
Talk about a short poem on TikTok and get attention from your 8-year-old self's biggest crush, Who
knew that was the path?
All right.
And how has this winter been for you?
It has had its ups and downs for sure. We started our spring semester back virtual because of Omicron. And so the first 3 weeks of the semester, which is really vital to building a rapport with students. So that was a little bit rough. Also, because my daughter attends school in person at a school that is next to where I teach, I wasn't just getting to stay home. I was having to drive her to school. And since my classes would then start, I would have to go up to where my office was and sit in my office for 6 hours teaching virtually with no one else around. So it was very surreal, very lonely. But we're back to being on campus now, and it's much improved. Getting to see faces, even if they're half covered by masks. That's all right.
It's kind of the best combination right now, in person with masks.
Right. Unfortunately, as of this recording, we will be dropping the mask mandate on Monday. I think it's a little soon, if you ask me. I don't know that the numbers really warrant that, other than if you change the metrics to judge the numbers, well then sure.
Yeah, I think if the metric is people's will to wear masks, right? Like, not the actual science, but people have just given up.
Right. Yeah, so I told my students I'm still going to wear mine. You can choose whether or not to wear yours. It's your choice, but please to at least try to be respectful of the other people in the class and their choices. And luckily, I am teaching now, even though I'm an English professor, I'm teaching in the science building. And they have me in this really kind of classic lecture hall. It's huge. It's the biggest room I've ever taught in. But I still only have 25 students, so they're a lot more spread out, and I think it is beneficial to our social distancing a great deal. So even the kids in the front row, I'm still 6 feet from the kids in the front row, so it won't be too much of a problem.
Yeah, that's very different than the normal English room setup, which is like desks on top of each other. Then squeeze them into a circle and try not to step on each other.
Exactly.
I think because we're dropping them too in Illinois, and there's no on one hand where I think we should be dropping the mask mandate yet, because kids under 5, until the kids under 5 have access to it, I don't know why we're dropping it's like the truly the least we can do to protect kids and people that are immunocompromised is at least wait until the vaccine is available to the under 5s. Or hold the mask mandate until after the next drinking holiday, which is St. Patrick's Day, Like, at least hold it until a week after St. Patrick's Day, because SantaCon fucked us for Omicron. St. Patrick's Day, the first year of COVID, they allowed everything to happen in Chicago. And so the drinking holidays, I blame a lot of like the variant formation. So that's all. I just wish they would have kept it through St. Patrick's Day. But I am not a politician or a scientist.
See, I think that if we blame the if we blame the drinking holidays, then we need to name the variants after beers, since it's already Corona. It could be the Michelob variant and the Pabst variant.
So we would be coming up on the Green Miller Lite variant. That's going to be the next one.
Yes.
The Shamrock Shake is the next variant. That's what I'm calling it. Yeah, I agree. So we're going to talk about a particular movie, but I'm curious if any other pop culture things have caught your eyes over the last few months. Is there anything new that you've been watching?
You mentioned that I do comics, I teach comics, and so most of my comics consumption, or most of my pop culture consumption of late, has been catching up on comic book based media. And so I watched Invincible. Finally, I got caught up on that. I watched the 3rd season of Doom Patrol, and I loved and enjoyed Peacemaker, like a lot of fellow geeks. I thought that Peacemaker was excellent. James Gunn does a great job all around. I don't know that I've seen anything that he's been involved in that I didn't think was great. So yeah, I was really loving Peacemaker and watching it week after week. So that's probably been the big one that's grabbed my attention lately.
And that's John Cena in like a very homemade superhero costume. Is that what I've gathered from memes?
Okay. Somewhat. Yes. So the premise of the show is that John Cena's father was a white supremacist supervillain, and he has tried to kind of move past that by striking out on his own somewhat. So he's confronting issues of his father's legacy. He's confronting issues of the fact that he has perhaps himself done some bad things. Is he a hero? Is he a villain? And he's working to prevent an alien invasion with a crew of people that he's not sure he can trust or not. And it is heartwarming, but it's also hilarious. It's violent, like you expect a James Gunn production to be, and got great soundtrack. It's just fun. Been an enjoyable watch, I would say.
Nice. It's definitely on my radar. I've been having a harder time figuring out like what shows I want to watch lately. But yesterday I was like, let's see what's happening on Righteous Gemstones this season, which is the John Goodman, Danny McBride. Danny McBride is the creator. John Goodman is the patriarch. And I think I watched an entire season last night. I stayed up until like 2 a.m. I was like, there's time for one more. So Righteous Gemstones really hit me in the right spot yesterday. But I'll try Peacemaker.
I've not checked that out. I will have to follow your recommendation. I have a coworker actually that raves about that show. So I'll have to give it a watch.
It's absurd. It's absurd as comedy, but it really takes the kind of like Jim Baker, Tammy Faye Baker stuff that was on TV when we were kids and puts the camera inside the family compound, and I haven't watched Succession either, but like what happens when kids are raised wealthy and have to take on the family business, but in this family, the family business is God and the church. And if you're raised with that much wealth, can you have a relationship with God? And it's Danny McBride, so you kind of know the answer going in. But John Goodman as the patriarch, this season has a lot of, I felt like, Raising Arizona vibes to it.
Oh.
In a way that the first season didn't. It was kind of more focused on the John Goodman character, differently than the first season. I feel like was more on the kids, but it's great. The music is outstanding. The costuming, the storylines. I am constantly surprised by what's happening. I do not see the stories coming, which is why I watched 5 or 8 hours of it yesterday.
I like a good bingeable comedy. I think right now that's what I need. I need lighthearted. I need, that it's half an hour, and I can choose to watch 3 hours of it if I want, but it's not going to require that of me. A lot of films that I've wanted to watch lately, I want to see Nightmare Alley, but it's 2.5 hours. And I would rather watch an entire season of a show, 6 half-hour episodes, than watch one film for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Ghosts. I have not. I've had a lot of people recommending the original British version to me, which is also on HBO Max, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah.
And again, a handful of episodes. That definitely is right up my alley, and I need to give it a shot.
The premise is amazing, and I haven't watched the BBC version, and I understand that the BBC version, it's an improv troupe that had been doing this as a stage show for years, so their chemistry is off the charts because they are offset real life. It is one improv troupe that's been together for years that became the cast of the show. But I've just watched the American version, and it is also phenomenal. I think it's a great concept that could work if you've got a good team of writers and actors. I would watch it in countless settings. Oh, another show that is not quite a comedy. Have you seen The Beforeigners?
No, I've not even heard of that.
It's a Norwegian show, so it's set in Norway. It's a cop. It's, it's a, grizzled police officer coming back with drug problems and his new partner. But Beforeigners is set in today, but the problem, or the cultural problem, is that people have started from different eras of Oslo accidentally time traveling to current times. So every night there's a flash of water, a flash of light in the water, and people pop up in the water, and they're either Neanderthals, Vikings, they're from the 1800s. Those are the 3 time periods, and they keep accidentally time traveling to current times, and they have to be folded into societies. So they're the Beforeigners because they're from the before times, but they are the people of the land. So they're not. So it gets into like issues of racism and immigration, but everyone's from the same land. And the premise is it's a global event. It's happening on the shores of every major city. Every city around the world is having these like time travelers show up and is integrating them into their society. And so there's obviously the drama of that, but the way that they've done the world building and the way they handle like trans-temporal relationships, or, when people of one time fall in love with people of another. So the cop story in this is that his new partner is the first Viking to join the police force. So So it's great.
Interesting.
It's a drama with very dry, funny elements to it. So it's not going to hit your I need a comedy sweet spot, but it is really interesting, and the world building is outstanding.
And what streaming service would this be available
HBO.
on?
HBO Max.
All right.
And there's like 3 seasons of it.
That sounds really interesting. That definitely sounds up my alley. So I've got to check that out.
Yeah. And it's they've set it up that it could happen. How there's only a Norwegian version of this show when it is so ripe for fan fiction. It's so ripe for like franchise the hell out of it. Put it everywhere. Set it in Chicago, set it in New Orleans, like Cairo, anywhere with a body of water. Because that's like the one rule is people come out of a body of water. And that's basically everywhere people live.
Yeah.
Or have lived for centuries and eons is if there's water. So it could be anywhere. Set in Buenos Aires. It just seems I want to see the show everywhere.
There are probably people right now out there working on developing it and trying to figure out how they can film in Vancouver and make it look like an American city.
Right. Yes. So what are we talking about today? And reveal from the beginning, have you written any major academic papers about it?
No, I have not. This is just something I've been a fan of since I was 17. And that would be the Tim Burton produced, Henry Selick directed stop motion classic, The Nightmare Before Christmas.
The Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm so excited to talk about it. I'm sure I saw it in the theaters, and I've only seen it a handful of times. When did this become? Has it been like a top 5 movie since you saw it the first time, or has it grown over time?
Absolutely, the first time that I saw it, even before I first saw it. Back pre-internet days, the way that we found out about the existence of things was through magazine ads and, the teasers and trailers that would drop on TV. And I remember looking at an issue of like Rolling Stone or Spin or something, and it had a full page ad that was a black and white illustration, mostly black. It said "Meet Jack" and had in white the silhouette of the Jack Skellington character. And they did this for a number of the different characters: Meet Sally, Meet the Mayor. And I would see these full page ads in magazines, and I'm like, what is this? It looks so interesting. I loved the design of the characters from even before I saw them in motion for the first time. I was also, like a lot of 80s kids, really into Tim Burton. You've got Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, the 1989 Batman. These were very formative to me, and to then see that this is a Tim Burton production, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be something that I am gonna be super, super into, I'm sure. So even before I saw the film in the theater, I knew this is my wheelhouse. This is something I'm into.
Yeah. And is it before or after Edward Scissorhands? Because that was that and Beetlejuice were my top 2 Tim Burton.
I believe it was after.
Okay.
Because Nightmare is like 93.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that it is after. And I was never as into Edward Scissorhands as a lot of people. I saw it and I thought it was okay. I thought it was good. but Pee-wee's Big Adventure I saw dozens of times, and Beetlejuice I saw dozens of times, and Batman I could still, if we started the movie right now, I could quote the movie along with it, every part all the way through. Even though I haven't seen it probably in 20 years, I saw it enough times in the first 20 years of my life that that it's ingrained. It is.
Is that the Batman with Michael Keaton and the soundtrack is primarily Prince?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
Yeah. One of the best soundtracks of all time.
Yeah, agreed. The soundtrack and the score, of course, still Danny Elfman. That vital partnership that made Nightmare such an amazing film as well.
So you see the ads, you start catching the ads, you start meeting the characters, and then do you remember seeing the first preview for it? Like, when did you know it was stop motion and not just like standard animation?
I do vaguely recall seeing the first trailers aired. And honestly, what I remember more is that Burger King was having a promotion with the movie when it was coming out. And Burger King would run commercials with the characters, clips from the movie. And they were doing a thing where if you bought a meal or you bought a particular burger or something, and then you paid an extra $1.99 or something like that, that you could get a Nightmare Before Christmas watch. And they had 4 different watches.
Yep.
And I very, very firmly remember, like, I got to get that watch. That's so cool. So the first time, long before Hot Topic grabbed a hold of Nightmare Before Christmas and was like, let's merchandise the hell out of this. Burger King watches were like, I gotta get that Burger King watch. And I did, and I wore it until it broke. Because I loved it. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's great. So for people that like, obviously there are going to be spoilers. We're talking about a movie that is almost 30 years old. Is that possible?
Yeah.
1993? No.
Yeah.
No, I don't accept that it's 30 years ago. But Jack Skellington is from, if my memory serves me correctly, and then you will fix the plot. He's from like
sure.
Halloween Town, and so his town's job is to make Halloween happen for humans,
That's
think.
Correct.
And then he learns about Christmas, and it looks like fun, and so he's trying to bring Christmas to Halloween Town or bring more Halloween into Christmas.
He discovers Christmas, and he's been in a very morose place of, this is Halloween again, same old. That life has kind of lost some of its vitality for him. So he discovers Christmas, and he thinks, this is the way to revitalize myself. This is something new. And he tries to figure out what Christmas is first, and then he decides that he's going to take it over, that he's going to let Santa have a break for a year, and he'll be the new person doing Christmas. It involves the kidnapping of Santa Claus, and it involves some wild shenanigans as the residents of Halloween Town don't understand what Christmas is. And so they try to make a Halloween version of Christmas, not understanding how different the holidays are.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's fun, and it's got a lot of great jokes for people who are fans of both holidays, and it's just a beautifully animated, beautifully rendered. Every element of the design is wondrous, and it captures the joy of Halloween and the joy of Christmas in equal parts.
I'm curious, I don't want to time travel all immediately to you introducing your daughter to it, because we talked before about introducing your daughter to Doctor Who. But kind of talk to me about it comes in the theaters, so you get to see it for the first time. Now, is this something you went out and got on VHS so you could keep watching it when it came out? Like, what are your high school, college, like your early years with this movie? What's your relationship with it?
So the movie came to theaters when I was a junior, I believe, in high school. And the theater in my small town, Centralia, Illinois, didn't actually get, we had 2 theaters. That was all we had in our 2 different screens, I guess, in our theater. And we didn't get it. But a local town nearby, Salem, Illinois, did. And so luckily I had a car. Luckily I was of the right age that I would be able to drive to the theater and go see it. And I am relatively sure that I went on a date to see it with, as was often the case with me at that time, a girl that I dated for probably about 6 weeks and then never saw again. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. My my high school
that's
dating.
Like normal high school dating. That is fine.
All right, good. So I was just so enamored of it in the theater. I thought it was amazing. I was a person who had a pretty extensive VHS collection when I went off to college. Mm-hmm. I joined Columbia House so that I could get my VHS tapes. And I was pretty obsessive about it even at the time that I need widescreen. I need it to give me the black bars on top and bottom. I need to see it in the full picture because I was tired of watching films that were pan and scan and part of the image being cut out. So I went to great lengths to track down a VHS copy that was widescreen. I believe that I had to pick it up at what was the name of that mall chain, Sunset Video or something along those lines.
Yeah. Because Sunset Video is where you
special
bought
order it.
Movies, and Blockbusters where you rented movies. Right.
So I had to go to Sunset Video to track down and special order a copy of it on VHS so that it was fully widescreen, the full picture. And when I eventually switched to DVD, it was one of the first DVDs I bought, and I still have that DVD to this day. That is, pretty low picture quality, to be honest, but
yeah.
And usually now when I watch it, I turn it on Disney Plus and I stream it instead because the picture quality is so much better. But I still have the DVD. I'm very much a proponent of physical media. And my favorite things I'm still always going to buy on physical media. So,
well, you can't trust. Oh, that immediately sounds like I have a tinfoil hat on. But when it's digital media that you don't have on your own hard drive, you can't trust an Amazon or Disney to allow you to keep access to it. So physical copies still really matter.
I 100% agree. And that is why I will always still buy physical media of my favorite things. My collection has largely shrank over the years because just for space issues, I whittle it down to the things that matter to me the most. But I do still have, to this day, some VHS of some things that I don't know have ever been released on DVD or Blu-ray. And I'm like, well, I don't want to not ever have a copy of this, even though I don't have a working VCR anymore.
Right. But you could get one, should you need it. I interviewed Max Pacheco, I don't know, at some point during the pandemic about he was helping hunt down lost Disney movies, things that had been maybe shown on a Friday night Disney on ABC or and trying to find oftentimes the one person, like the director, his generally a man, personal VHS copy, and he would find that person through IMDb, email them, beg them to borrow the tape, promise to return it quickly, and he is now down to like maybe 10 movies of this, like completing the whole Disney catalog away from finding all of them. And
Wow.
and a number of them have been from actors and directors getting their VHS copy. He gets it, he makes a digital copy of it, and then sends them back the tape and a digital copy to help. But absolutely, there's things that went on TV that never made it into like commercial, I don't know, circulation.
I will say, as a literature professor, it is interesting to think about the stories that might be lost to time in 100 years, 200 years, but then also to think about the stories that have been lost to time. You know, whenever I teach Beowulf to my British literature class, I always kind of mention to them, you know, we don't know that there weren't more Beowulf adventures. What we have of Beowulf is essentially like someone having DVD copies 200 years from now of Sopranos seasons 2, 3, and 6. And we don't know, were there more? It feels like there might have been more, but we just don't have those written down.
Yeah, and as you look at people that do digital only releases, an author I really like, Jasper Ford, he has a series called the Thursday Next series, where people go in and out of book world. It's weird that there's a war in Ukraine this week, because in his books the war about Crimea has never ended. But one of the other things he talks about is one is like in book world, characters, when their book isn't being read, they can go on adventures with other people when their books aren't being read. But eventually, when a book has been read for the last time, the words and characters are allowed to be like recycled into new works. And he really thinks about like what happens when a book goes completely out of circulation, when the characters are never needed to be on the page again. And he just has really developed a way of thinking about what happens when books are no longer published, when the last copy is gone, when they're no longer being read, when they're lost to time, and the risk of an Amazon-like company making things digital and then limiting how you can let people borrow books digitally from you. What happens when it's not a physical media and the company has ultimate control over the text? There's a lot of good stuff in there. I love it.
That's I have never read those books. I have seen them and been intrigued by them before, and that I didn't know that was kind of the premise. That is very interesting, because I do think about that a lot. That very easily Amazon could say a particular work, we don't want to sell that anymore. We're gonna wipe that away, and that censorship that could happen. Again, not to put on a tinfoil hat at all, but that is the joy of physical media, and I really do think that physical media is never going to die 100%. I think people like holding something in their hands and interacting with it in the physical world, the real world. So.
But back to The Nightmare Before Christmas. You chase down the widescreen version of the VHS tape.
Yes. And to tie it in, you know, we are coming up on the 30th anniversary of Nightmare Before Christmas. And if they then reissue it I don't have it on Blu-ray yet, I would love to. Give me a cool package, give me some special bonus features, give me a documentary about the making of, and I'm there.
Yeah. I hope they'll take it back into the movie theaters.
Oh, yeah.
That seems like a no-brainer. That would be great. It would be really cool to see it again and hear it again in a theater.
And I would love to take my daughter to see it on a big screen. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah. What was it like introducing her to Jack Skellington and his friends?
It was... I was worried that she was going to find it a little scary, but she didn't. Because it's of that caliber of a lot of quote unquote scary things, that it's fun scary as opposed to horrifying scary.
Right.
And then she has been able to make that distinction from a very young age. I think I mentioned this in the Doctor Who discussion, that she didn't get scared by the things that I thought might have scared her because she recognized it was fun. As opposed to, she can't walk by the movie section of Target because she knows that she might see the cover of the movie It. And she's like, that's just scary.
Yeah.
Or Annabelle. She saw a commercial for Annabelle once and she was like, nope. I'm like, yeah, that's not fun scary. And so when she did watch Nightmare, she must have been just 2 or 3 probably, and was really kind of intrigued by these characters. And she'd seen the characters on Daddy's T-shirts. She was familiar with the characters from some of the merchandise that I do own. She's like, "What's this?" And "What's this? What's this?" She absolutely was drawn in. She, like a lot of things that I'm super into, she is not as into them as I am, but she at least happily tolerates them, and that's all I can hope for, really.
Yeah. Right. And tell me about the merchandise, because you're right, Hot Topic really went all in. It's shocking to me. I feel like people have been wearing Nightmare Before Christmas merch for the last 20 years minimum. It doesn't seem like it went out of style necessarily like other movies have. But what are the different types of merch that you've bought that you like from the movie?
So for me, it is mostly T-shirts. I don't wear that many T-shirts because, as a professor, every day I'm going in a button down and trying to look somewhat semi-professional. So T-shirts have always kind of been delegated to weekend wear. But of all of the things that I am into, I have more Nightmare Before Christmas themed T-shirts than any other wearable attire, any other of any other pop culture icon, Doctor Who, Star Wars, comics. It's mainly Nightmare Before Christmas. So that's my key thing. I bought. We've taken my daughter to Disney World a few times, and whenever I'm there, I'm always looking for something Nightmare related as my souvenir that I'm going to get, my one thing. And so over the years, I bought a book on the making of Nightmare Before Christmas and Nightmare Before Christmas shot glasses and little tchotchkes more than anything else. But I do have a couple stuffed animals that one time we took my daughter to Disney World and they had Mickey as Jack and Minnie as Sally. And I'm like, we got to get these.
Required.
And I said that they were for her. But a year ago when she had gone through her stuffed animals and decided she was going to get rid of quite a few because she needed to. We were running out of room. Her room kind of getting overwhelmed with stuffed animals, as happens with a young girl sometimes. So yeah, those ended up in the to-go pile, and I'm like, you're not going. They're going to my office is where they're going.
It was nice. It was nice of you to let her have custody of those particular stuffies for a while.
But now they are mine, and they sit in my office, proudly displayed.
Nice. And what about? I feel like we went pretty far away from the plot because I was asking about like, media and merch. But if we come back to the movie, what are some of what are your favorite songs from it? What are some of your favorite moments? If you're trying to, you meet an alien who's going to experience this movie for the first time and they don't know anything about it, like how are you pitching them on it? Like, let's talk a little bit more about the movie itself.
To an alien in particular, I'm so glad that you asked the question in that way. To an alien in particular, I would say that it is a movie that is essentially about falling in love with another culture, wanting to take ownership of that culture, and then learning that the best way to respect that culture is to let that culture exist, and appreciate it as a outsider and fan. Because that is the lesson that is the lesson that Jack Skellington learns. He discovers Christmas because he's bored with his ordinary life. He decides he wants it for his own. That is, in fact, a lyric of what's this? I want it, oh, I want it, oh, I want it for my own. And he realizes that's wrong in the end. He realizes that he has kind of killed the joy of the thing by trying to make it his. So he hands it back to the person it belongs to and apologizes and lets Christmas happen then. But with this newfound, I like this thing, but it's given me a new verve for life to do the thing that is mine in a new way. And take that influence, but not take over. So that's how I would talk to an alien about it. If I was talking to a regular old... Go ahead.
Oh, that it's cultural appropriation versus appreciation, and please don't colonize us. You can appreciate us without colonizing.
Exactly. And there have been a lot of people who've kind of talked about that potential theme of cultural appropriation. So I'm not at all the first to notice this, but I think that it is a major idea of this film that the world around us, we are not how to put this? We don't have to take ownership of something to appreciate it. I think that's something that fandoms in general do. You can appreciate something without feeling ownership of that thing. And coming as he does from a very, I'll just say goth, kind of emo kind of place, the Tim Burton oeuvre. That idea of you can dip your toes in the water. You can appreciate from afar. And that is very meaningful to me because I am someone who is goth adjacent. But I could never be goth. I am too lighthearted. And that's what makes this movie kind of brilliant in a lot of ways, is for that subset of the culture that is drawn to the darkness somewhat, but appreciates the light just as much. And so you've got Halloween and Christmas, these two polar opposites in so many ways.
Right.
We're going into the fall, the autumn. Let's celebrate all that is dark about this, and then we have let's have hope and optimism and beauty and sharing my two favorite holidays mashed into one. You got chocolate in my peanut butter. You got peanut butter in my chocolate. You can't ask for anything better.
That's great. It's a way of bookending like the holiday season that I hadn't thought about stretching it that far, because one of my rabbi will talk about during Hanukkah. So there was this big debate about how you light the menorah. Do you light it? Because over the course of 8 nights, you light 1 candle, then 2, then 3, then 4. And there's one philosophy that says you should start with 8 candles and then 7, then 6, then 5, then 4, because it represents while the oil lasted 8 days, obviously like it dwindled towards the end. And the other one is that you do it 1 through 8 to show like the increasing light of the season, because generally over the course of Hanukkah, you get into like the darkest days of winter, the longest nights, the darkest days. But when you increase the number of candles over the holiday, you're increasing the light of the season, and it's building that hope for that spring is coming, that the days are going to start getting longer. And I think it's such a nice application when you think about Halloween, which is like a goth dark. It's a like if you think of like
season.
Day of the Dead, and it's spooky season, and then Thanksgiving, and then to Christmas, and thinking about it as the whole season as a narrative arc is not something I've really thought about, like the whole season as an arc. And that's really interesting.
And there is a lot of debate online about whether or not Nightmare Before Christmas is a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie. I would argue it is anytime you feel like it movie. First of all, it is it's March 30th. I feel like watching Nightmare Before Christmas. We'll put it on. You don't have to save it for the season. That being said, I think it very clearly is more a Christmas movie than it is a Halloween movie. The movie does feature the residents of Halloween Town, but it begins when Halloween has ended, and it is about the malaise that can kind of strike in between the season, in between the holidays, of like, oh, Halloween's over, now what? And it's the movie's plot points are about appreciating the true spirit of Christmas. And then, which one of the two holidays is in the title? I think that's a pretty big case right there that you could make for it being a Christmas movie more. But really, the answer is watch it every single day if you want, because it's fun.
Yeah. And what about songs? What's your favorite song, or if that's too hard, your top 2 or 3 songs from the movie?
Absolute favorite has to be Sally's song. I think in a lot of ways a sadder song does not exist. Because the song is her essentially saying, he will never love me the way I love him. He doesn't see me that way, and God, doesn't that suck?
Oof.
And it's unrelenting, honestly, if you listen to the lyrics, just like, will we ever end up together? No, I think not. And it is not to be is the conclusion. And it's just beautifully performed by Catherine O'Hara. And it is, it's just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And again, that bittersweet, wonderful way that we like to have our her heart's broken sometimes. And of course it has a happy ending because he finally sees her in the end and what she does and sees her for her by the end. She is very much, I mean, she is an object as a character. She was made by her creator to fulfill her needs. And she is throughout the film trying to become who she wants to be and find her agency. And in the end, Jack sees her for who she is. And she is rewarded that she gets the guy, not that he is rewarded by learning a lesson and gets the girl. She is rewarded for standing up for what she believes in and gets her manic pixie dream guy. So yeah, again, subverting that trope. That is actually something I hadn't really thought about before, but just now as we're talking about it, kind of coming to me that I think you could very much make a case for Sally being the main character of the film. She is the one who sees from the beginning that this is wrong and goes about saving Christmas. Jack is the one that, has the big fight with the bad guy at the end, of course, but would not have been possible without Sally. And she's the Hermione Granger of the film, the one that's actually done everything if you really stop and think about it.
Yeah. I think I need to rewatch it because I didn't remember that storyline at all. But isn't there, I know there's some, I don't know if it was a second movie or I feel like there's stuff where you see her in a wedding veil. Is that in the movie? Do they get married in the movie or is that a different piece? Is that a sequel?
There is a different Tim Burton stop motion thing called The Corpse Bride. That is very much in the same vein, but
is not her.
It is not her, not the same characters. And is not as good, if you ask me.
Okay. Okay. So I had connected them as The Corpse Bride as a sequel to Nightmare Before Christmas. I've never seen The Corpse Bride, but they're just stylistically similar, but not maybe the same universe or not the same universe at all.
There's definitely similarities, similar tones, but definitely completely different stories. So
okay. I just missed it completely. I've got to refresh my memory.
That is honestly one of the good things about Nightmare Before Christmas. There have been some follow-up comic books, but they've been kind of few and far between. For the most part, it seems as if people have been content to let the story stand as its own thing and not demand a sequel, not demand, well, what happens next? Right. And I think as much as a fan, I want to know what happens next. Where does it go from there? Like, no, let it be its thing and leave what happens next to fan fiction, to the imagination of the people who love it.
And does that make Sally a Disney princess? Does she and Jack have characters in the parks?
I've never seen that, unfortunately. I would flock to it. I know that during the Halloween season, the Haunted Mansion has a lot of Nightmare merchandise, and I'm told that Hollywood Studios, the Tower of Terror gift shop, often has Nightmare Before Christmas merchandise. But I don't know that the parks have ever really dove into that as fully. But that's also, for all I know, they do at Halloween. I am never able to go to Disney at Halloween, and I've always wanted to, because it's smack in the middle of the school year. It's kind of hard for me to get time away at that time.
Maybe some year when you get maybe on your sabbatical.
That would be awesome. That would be the reason to apply for the sabbatical.
Have you done any cosplay or Halloween costumes in the Nightmare Before Christmas world?
I have. I want to say 2002 or 2003. I used to, every year for Halloween, have a big costume party, all my friends invited. I did it for over a decade. And basically the only reason I stopped was that I had a child and had a newborn and wouldn't be able to have a big party anymore. Mm-hmm. But one year, again, I can't remember, it was 2002, 2003, I would always go all out on my Halloween costumes and spend months planning. And I was kind of at a loss. I hadn't decided on anything yet. And I was at the Disney store in St. Louis at the Galleria, and they had Jack Skellington costumes. And I'm like, sold. And then I looked at the price tag and I was like, oh, it was $50. And that's in 2002 money. Figure inflation in that, maybe about double that for today. But I'm like, I'm going to get it. This is what I want. It's a big splurge, but this is what I want to do for Halloween. So yeah, I bought an official Disney Store merchandised costume and wore it that year. And then the following Halloween, I found out that they were going on eBay for more than I paid for them. So I sold it and made a profit. So I was very happy that I could wear the costume once and then make money off of it. But nice. I do kind of regret it, thinking about, I bet it's worth even more now if I had one. But it would just be sitting in my closet. So it's better to have made that money and used it for something new at that time than still have it in a closet gathering dust, I guess.
Yeah. Or having, at this point, you might have recycled it into different costumes or used the parts or, Right. It's a lot to assume you would have kept it in pristine, eBayable? That's a word. It is now. Condition. Is there anything I haven't you haven't gotten to say yet about Nightmare Before? Nightmare Before Christmas. Is there anything that I haven't asked you about Nightmare Before Christmas that you would regret not saying?
I guess two quick things in regards to how memeable it is. It came out in an age before memes, but there are little moments, little things from it, and perhaps my favorite is there's the mayor at one point is very sad that Jack has disappeared because he's gone to find out about Christmas. We only have 365 days until the next Halloween. And the little werewolf guy pops up and says, 364! And that is that gif of that character going 364 is one that if November 1st comes around and I have not shared that on social media, that is someone impersonating me. That is not me. And so along those lines, I'm reminded of that at one of my Halloween parties of years past. It was in college. It was a thing that we did that we all chose a character, one of those minor characters. There's the clown with the tearaway face. There's the werewolf. There's several witches. All of these kind of secondary minor characters that only have like one random line, and then you find out after the fact, like Greg Proops voiced that character. What? But you pick one of those characters, and every time that character has a line, you had to take a drink. And if that person's line was in the song, you had to finish your drink. So that was the fun Nightmare Before Christmas drinking game that we developed when we were in college.
Nice.
But it goes to illustrate
an incredible voice cast.
It really is. So many amazing folks in the voice cast, and including the fact that Danny Elfman is the singing voice of Jack, and even to this day, I can't really tell a difference between the speaking voice and the singing voice. But I know that they are two different actors. But it's an amazing thing that's what he sounds like when he sings, and it sounds like Jack.
Huh, that's so cool. Oh, and he was Susan Sarandon's husband.
Yeah.
Christopher Sarandon. I was like, why is that a familiar name? Duh.
Humperdinck in Princess Bride. And yeah, it has been a part of my life from high school through college, after college, to being a dad. And I don't think it's ever going to go away. And the fact that you mentioned, that the merchandise is still such a great seller, I think it speaks to the timeless quality of the film, that it is a classic, and it will be something that hopefully people will talk about 200 years from now as a piece of literature that captures these holidays and captures their spirit as well. So
I went to a very fun wedding in Las Vegas, and it was probably 2003, 2004-ish. That was a wedding on Halloween and Nightmare Before Christmas themed.
Gosh. That sounds wonderful.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun details. Like the cake topper obviously was Jack and Sally, and a lot of red, white, black were the colors and the flowers, and it was an evening wedding in like a courtyard of a hotel, so it was outside, because you can do outside weddings in October in Las Vegas. So, or afternoon, evening. It was very fun. So
that sounds amazing. That would have been so cool.
Well, I will try and do this. Episode will come out next week, but I suspect I can, if I could find the time to watch an entire season of Righteous Gemstones yesterday, I bet I can find time to watch this and add some thoughts to the intro that I do. Because I think all I remember is the main, like, two songs, like the This Is Halloween song, and what's this? Bum, 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 which may be the same. I think it's a different song. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, they are different songs.
Okay.
Yeah. This Is Halloween is the very first song that opens the thing and is kind of lays the background of the musical. And What's This is kind of the I Want song. That sets up the conflict, essentially. So good transition into Act 2, basically.
Nice. Great. Well, Steve, where can people find you online, or is there anything you'd like to promote?
Absolutely. Most of my social media, I am Vacuum Boy 9, 1C, 2 U's for Vacuum Boy. And that's on Twitter, that's on Instagram, that's on TikTok. And TikTok is probably the area where I've been focusing my creative content the most lately. I'm absolutely loving doing these 60-second poetry lessons, which frequently are a full 3 minutes. But I am loving doing those and just being a goof to my 4,000 followers on there. So that's probably the best place that you would find me is on TikTok.
Awesome. You can find Finding Favorites at Finding Faves Pod on Instagram and Twitter. And you can follow me, Chicago Leah, on Twitter and TikTok, where I also recently went viral for something dumb, which is the only way I go viral on TikTok. This time it was calling out some hikers who recorded a video of like 6 of them dancing on quicksand like idiots. Not Gen X. I was just defending Gen X because we would never.
Right. No way.
Yeah. And please follow the podcast I'm trying out Good Pods now, which is trying to become like a marketplace for indie podcasts. But Apple, Stitcher, follow and review, leave 5 stars. It is very helpful, supposedly. And Steve, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you for listening to Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. Please make sure to subscribe and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Now, go out and enjoy your favorite things.